A couple of weeks ago, I compared the Glendronach 12 and the Glendronach 15. And this time it is the turn of the Glenallachie. Welcome back, Dram Fam, to the Whisky Diary. So a couple of weeks ago, we had somewhat of a shootout between the Glendronach 12 and the Glendronach 15. I got some fantastic feedback from you guys. You seem to really enjoy that. So I thought we'd just go straight back in with the Glenallachie. Both of these whiskies are like my firm favourites. So this one's going to be a little bit more difficult. I love them both for quite different reasons, and I'd be very interested. I have a feeling this is going to be quite controversial. I have a sneaky suspicion that a few people are going to have quite a lot to say about this. As usual, leave me comments down below. This kind of format is still being formed, as it were. I haven't quite decided exactly how best to do it, and you know, it's never going to be scientific, right? So if you guys have any suggestions on how to do this better, what might be more useful to you, do let me know down in the comments, because I'm always keen to improve. So as I say, this week it's the turn of the Glenallachie 12 and the Glenallachie 15. Now I have reviewed the Glenallachie 12 in full, which you can find in the description down below, but I haven't reviewed the 15. Now as you can see, I've enjoyed quite a lot of both of these. They're whiskies I know fairly well, but I often get asked if it's worth spending that bit more for the 15. Now, I know the 15 is a firm favourite with so many people. They often talk about it, actually, a lot of the time the way that I talk about the Glendronach 15. So, as I say, I know this is going to be controversial. Leave me your comments down below. I'm really looking forward to reading them. So, let's get into it. First up, we have the Glenallachie 12. This is, of course, a 12-year-old whiskey. It is bottled at 46%. It is unchill filtered, all natural colour. From what I understand, this is a vatting of PX, Oloroso and Virgin Oak, and you can pick this up from Master of Malt for £47.95, which is a little bit more than it used to be. Moving on. Next, we have the Glenallachie 15. This is, of course, a 15-year-old whiskey. It is bottled up at 46%. It is unchill filtered, all natural colour. This, from what I understand, is a vatting of only the PX and Oloroso sherry. This is Sans Virgin Oak, but if I'm honest, I found it very difficult to find the kind of cask recipes for these. It does list the PX and Oloroso on both. Anecdotally, I'm told that the Glenallachie 15 has no Virgin Oak in it. I can't get anything definitive on that, but I don't care. If it tastes good, I'm going to drink it. So we're not going to focus on that too much. And you can pick this up from Master of Malt for £66.95, so £67. So the similarities. Well, they're both 46%. They are both unchill filtered and all natural colour. They are both what we could consider heavily sherried whiskies. You can tell by the colour, you can tell by the flavour profile. There's a huge sherry influence in both of these whiskies. All in all, they're pretty similar. The main difference here is the age, the price and the vatting. There are, of course, a 15 and a 12, so 3 years difference. The price, I think there's about £20 between them. I think it's just less, actually. I think there's about £18 between them, similar to what we saw with the Glendronach 15 and the Glendronach 12. And obviously, anecdotally, there is a vatting difference. You know, the 15 contains no Virgin Oak. But again, I don't really want to focus on that. We're here about the flavour. Speaking of, let's get down to some tasting. Side by side. Really not a huge amount of colour difference at all. I mean, I said that about the Glendronachs, but these really do have very little difference between them. On the 12 side, right away, really sweet, really delicious, really succulent. That cola cubes note that, you know, we've grown to love from this whiskey. A really nice spiciness, a subtle piney herbaceous note, but overall really, really delicious, succulent, bright cola cubes, It's wonderful. It's a wonderful nose on a whiskey. Over to the 15. Way richer, way darker. Hints of smoked fish, bonfire in there as well. Just a subtle smokiness. Lots of those similar notes, but over here it's less cola cubes and more like deep, rich raisins and sultanas. Getting a bit more of a sour note as well, like a little bit of green apples. Maybe some dark cherries going on in there as well. Yeah, side by side, this is a brighter, sweeter, less rich and less heavy nose. Over here we've got some more dark fruits, a little bit more of a darker, juicier kind of nose. Onto the palate, on the 12. Ooh. Very bright, very sweet. Notes of like jam on toast. Maybe some apples and pears in there, quite a quintessentially Speyside undertone. There's a really nice like malty biscuitiness in there, like digestive biscuits, rich tea biscuits. Really nice kind of strawberry note that goes on there as well. Almost like creamy, but it's like a little bit more sickly sweet than that. It's got a really nice aromatic fruitiness. If you're into really hoppy beers, you'll know what I mean. It's literally like a hoppiness to it. Fantastic whiskey, absolutely love it. Onto the 15. Oh, glass of water first. Onto the 15. Right away, a much heavier bitterness comes forward. It's less bright and sweet and more kind of dark and tannic. There is a distinct sweetness there, like there's no getting away from that. It is wonderfully sweet, but this is just a little bit, well, I say a little bit, quite a bit richer, quite a bit spicier. There's less like bright sugary notes and more like deep chocolatey molasses notes going on. That bitterness is really taking its kind of hold as like a ginger, like a raw ginger note. And there's definitely like a lot more wood influence, and it's kind of a really difficult note to describe, but it's a woodiness, it's an oakiness. Quite often you'll hear terms in the whiskey world of, I think, when something's been over oaked, meaning it's just kind of spent too long in a barrel. And after the barrel's given all of its kind of sweetness and its vanilla-iness and whatever else the barrel has to give, you start to literally get wood flavour, which is not good. This feels like it's almost kind of on the cusp of that. You're getting those tannic, bitter notes coming through, but because it's so rich and sweet, it's really well balanced. Onto the finish. So plenty of water, go back in. The finish on that 12, quite light, a little bit floral, nice and fruity, really, really pleasant, nice and sweet, a little bit of vanilla coming through in there as well. Ever so slightly tannic, but it's not bitter. It just kind of leaves a nice drying sensation in the mouth. It's wonderful, it's light and it's easygoing. Drop of water onto the 15. This is a completely different beast on the finish. This has got tons of dark chocolate, bitter coffee, espresso. The fruitiness takes a completely different form here. It's like a maraschino, whatever. Those cherries. It's like a pungent, dark fruitiness that hangs around. Bit of smoke in there, bit of saltiness. It's a much, much darker, like more aggressive whiskey. And that really comes through for me the most on the finish. The nose is the most similar. The palate is where it starts to deviate. The finish on these is where it really is completely separate. So, do I think it's worth it to spend that extra £18 to upgrade to the 15? Controversially, no, I don't. I can only give you my experience, right? You know, what I would do. And while I do love the 15, it's a fantastic, rich, juicy whiskey. It's up there with the Glendronach 15. For me, the 12 does everything I need it to do. Now, that's not to say some people might not way prefer the 15. In fact, I dare say I know a lot of people that way prefer the 15. For them, it's got well, I guess for some, that extra dark, juicy, kind of more tannic note. Juicy is the wrong word, actually. That kind of dark, molassesy, more tannic note is indicative of quality and complexity. And it is a more complex whiskey, but that's not why I go to Glenallacie. I go to Glenallacie because it's sweet, it's juicy, it's bright, it's easygoing. Quite honestly, well, here we go. I bought both of these bottles at the same time, and this is my second one of these. I do like the 15. It's great. And if you're into darker, more complex, tannic, bitter whiskies, then honestly, go for the 15. The 12 is not going to be what you're looking for. But if you're someone that's not quite looking for something so complex, but you don't necessarily want a super easy, just quaffable, cheap whiskey, the Glenallacie I think is such a fantastic step up. It has gone up in price a bit since I last bought it. I think the last time I bought it, it was around the £40 mark. So it has gone up a bit. But I do think it's worth it for that price. It's just so bright and delicious, and I think that it's those virgin oak notes as well that really help it to have such a fantastic mix of sherry, obviously heavily sherried whiskey, and virgin oak. Just for me, honestly, it just sings. But anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you all very much for watching. If you've liked this video, please do drop a like down below. And if you'd like to support the channel, please do consider subscribing. Leave me a comment down below on what your favourite is. And honestly, if you disagree with me, tell me. Like, let's open up this discussion, because I'm always really, really interested to see what other people think. And on that note, Slanjavar.